Hi there. All right. My camera is right in my way. So, anyway, can't see who's jumping on and who's in here. But hey, Amanda. I am. I'm going live in the studio for the first time, so yeah, I'm a little confused because I'm not actually on my phone. My phone is right here. Um, so yeah. Anyway, today I am going to talk about. I'm actually working while I'm talking, but um, I talk about processes and solutions for businesses. And my husband and I were having a meeting today about how to develop an email marketing campaign. And again, this is the challenge with my processes is like this is what CEOs go through is we have a process that's in our head and then we have to get it out of our head and get it to a team member. So we have a way to document that, but we tend to keep it kind of locked up in our head until we absolutely have to get it out. And we've learned that that's not the best way to do things. So, anyway, I am actually working on building out my email campaign. So, I'm going to test and see if I don't think I can add the camera once I've joined, but anyway, um, and I can't see how many people are on. It's just new tech, new stuff. So I'll get it eventually. But with an email marketing campaign, I'm working in Go High Level, and they actually don't call them campaigns anymore. They are moving all of their campaigns to workflows, and so the workflow is actually when you're doing email marketing, you need to create your emails, um, and and like a welcome sequence should be 5 to 7 emails. But then how do you get them into that sequence? So there's different platforms work differently, and I've worked in Kajabi, I've worked in Mailchimp, I've worked in um, Go High Level, I've worked in System.io. I worked in a bunch of different ones, but it's all kind of the same. Is you have a you have a way to capture the email, and then once you capture their email, they get your customers, your leads, get put into a CRM and a workflow for that marketing. And for a welcome campaign, what that looks like is they provide their email to you, and that is the trigger. Once they submit that email, that's what we call the trigger. That's what starts the workflow. And then once that happens in your workflow, you actually have people. Um, the trigger has a set number of days after it, so you can set 1 day, 2 days, 4 days. There's a lot of marketing people that say, "Oh, you should email every day." I look at it from my perspective, and my emails get overwhelming, and so I like to give it a couple days between emails. So I tend to wait at least 3 days before sending out my next email. So you would tell your workflow to wait 3 days and then send email 2. And in some cases, like in Kajabi, the last sequence that I set up, you actually have to add the content of the email while you're building the sequence. It seems like Go High Level, because they're transitioning from campaigns to workflows, um, Go High Level may be changing where you can actually have them all built out as templates, and then you just say send template number 2 or send um, email number 2. So again, you keep adding layers in, and so in the emails, if you have buttons or links that they're going to click, you can set automations to then trigger that email to turn off, that sequence to turn off, or they just get added to another email sequence. I personally like to, if they jump into another sequence, I like to stop them from the first sequence. So in my welcome sequence, again, my trigger is they submit their email. So they've gone to TikTok and gone to the link in my bio and said, okay, I want this thing, the free thing. And when that free thing pops up, it goes to a funnel, and then on that funnel, they have to submit their email, and then it clicks submit, and on that submit, that's my trigger to add a tag where they came from, to add them to my welcome sequence, and to send the thing. You don't want to forget to send the thing. Um, Although mine is still manual because I'm rebuilding some of the stuff. And so, anyway, I have done that where I forget to send the thing. Anyway, so once that is done, so that is one workflow. That's the workflow that comes off of the funnel, and that is the one that says, okay, I've captured the email, now send them the thing. In that step, it enters them into the welcome email sequence, which then kicks off another sequence. So now that workflow, the trigger is when a contact is added to the welcome email sequence, send email number one. And then the next thing to do is to wait a day, at least a day. I like to wait at least a day. I personally wait 3 or 4 days. And once we wait 3 or 4 days, then we send email number two. And in those emails, you want to just, your welcome sequence should be 5 to 7 emails long. And again, you should try and space them out a little bit. I think people are getting overwhelmed by too many emails coming in. Like my husband was complaining the other day about how he gets like 10 emails from the same company, and it's frustrating, and it's frustrating for me. And when I was an executive assistant, yeah, I am like unsubscribe, unsubscribe. I would be constantly sending notes to the CEO like, do we need this email, because you get like 15 a day from this particular person, or can I unsubscribe? Um, and so I tend to keep the sequences rather short, and I tend to keep them helpful with maybe a link after every third or fourth one, but not something in every single one. The welcome sequence is really about you welcoming people into your universe. So, welcoming people into your communities, welcoming people into your world. So again, that's where we talk about different things that are going to work for the sequences. Um, Anybody who's just joining, I am like going live on the studio for the first time, and I don't know how to share my screen. So, anyway, if anybody has any tips on that, feel free to share them in the chat, because the TikTok live studio is new to me. Hi. So, all right, let's see if, nope, that's not it. Settings, let's check settings. Will it let me do anything? It will not let me do anything. Anyway, audio, this is all audio stuff. Anyway, hope everybody can hear me okay. So, yeah, we were talking about processes and workflows and the workflow for creating an email campaign and how to set that up, but I can't figure out how to share my screen with the new TikTok Live. So, and I didn't do it from the beginning. Maybe I will just jump off. Wait, can I do it now? No, it doesn't let me do it now. Because I'm new on the studio, it may be just blocking me from being able to share my screen. So, sorry. I may just have to, let's see if I can't just turn my screen around so that you can see my computer screen. And the rest of my, not that computer screen, this computer screen. So anyway, this is basically, this is Go High Level. And so let's see if I can set this up so that I can work and do this at the same time. It's so great that I can't share my screen yet, but oh well. Oh well, such is life. Anyway, you can see here that it says add trigger. So when you add the trigger, it's going to let you pick from a whole host of things. So the events, right, this is contact information, the events, and we want a trigger link clicked. So we're going to save the trigger. And then you can see that right now, I just have my trigger. So once that trigger link is clicked, then I want to go ahead and figure out what the next step is. Not that. It's really hard when I'm not able to share my screen and I have to keep moving my camera around. Anyway, so the action that we're going to do is when the trigger link is clicked, we're going to create a contact. And that is, we're going to save that action. You have to just pick the field. So we just want the standard fields. Save action. It's still not going to let me because it needs an email. So let's do this. And then so it's going to create a contact. And then we're going to say, actually, we're going to add a contact tag. And then you're going to select the tag. So if this is coming in through LinkedIn, you're going to add your LinkedIn tag. If it's coming in through a Facebook group, you can add the Facebook group tag. But then you're going to add the tag, and then we're going to add to a workflow. And so now the workflow that we're going to add to is, let's just say it's this workflow. You're going to name your workflow like welcome email sequence. And obviously we haven't done that yet because we're still transferring our campaigns over to our workflows and just getting some of this set up. Anybody else using Go High Level right now? Yeah, it's tricky because things are changing. So anyway, this is what a workflow looks like. Basically, you have your trigger. Sorry, again, you have your trigger here, and then your actions follow it, and then we're going to end it there. So once they get added to the workflow, this is where they're going to get added to that welcome email sequence. That's where we're going to end, because it's actually, a lot of people are like, no, 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 they have to continue into their email sequence. And they don't actually continue in the email sequence here. It gets continued in that workflow. So this is where things get a little bit tricky, because one workflow will lead into another. I'm going to turn the camera back around here to me, because I'm done sharing my screen for now. But yeah, so a lot of times people get as for example, I was just working with a client who was kind of taking one workflow and moving it into another workflow. And so a lot of people are, sales and marketing is a big one, because it's kind of like, when does marketing end and sales begin? It's like the never ending debate. And it even happens in my household, because my husband is my sales guy, and I'm the marketing person, and we fight all the time about when should leads get added to the CRM, and when does marketing stop and sales begin. And oh my god, it's a constant conversation. So yeah, but you got to kind of define when one workflow ends. And so, like here, when we're talking about the emails, the workflow that I was reviewing was adding this person to the sequence. So they've clicked through your funnel, given you their email, and clicked the submit button. And so now they've submitted their email. What happens to it? And the workflow is, the trigger is when the email is submitted. Then they create the CRM creates a contact, they add a tag, and they add them to the welcome sequence. And then that's the end of that workflow. The welcome sequence is actually its own workflow. So then when we go in to create that workflow, your trigger, so the starting point is going to be when somebody is added to the campaign or the workflow, then do these things. It's so funny, because I had always wondered about my kind of journey through so many different things, and going through like computer programming and calculus. I actually went back to college for computer programming, and the if then statements really confused me. Um, and now I understand why I needed to learn those, because those help me with my workflows. It's not always an if then, it's an if this happens, do this thing. Um, and so this is where we are through this workflow, and now we move into the next workflow of the welcome sequence. So the trigger on the welcome sequence is when contact is added to the sequence, then send email number 1. And in the email, you're gonna this live isn't about how to create the emails and everything like that. That's a whole separate thing. But you send the email, and then you wait a couple of days and send the next email, and wait a couple of days and then send the next email. And then in amongst that, so let's say on email number 3, you have a link that says, if you want to join my paid community, click here. And so once they click that link to go to the paid community, you don't necessarily want them to continue in your welcome email sequence. You want them to jump over to a different one. And so that's where they click the link, and then they get added to a different workflow. So the workflows can run simultaneously, or they can run individually. And in a lot of cases, you want them to run individually. So, for example, I'm in a coaching cohort for social media, and I've been in this person's world for a long time, and now I finally paid them for coaching. And so my coaching gets one email workflow, and then like some of the other pieces of her puzzle, I still get emails from that also. So I'll get um, an email about her business group or her hooks information. And so yeah, it gets tricky because when you're building out your workflows, you want to kind of keep it where it says if the person is in this workflow, do they need to be in this workflow? And then um, the other challenges, especially with email marketing, since that's what we're talking about today. And I was just talking to my husband about that. For those of you that don't know, I own a company that helps women who own their own businesses that want to bring their husbands into their business with them, and the challenges that provides. Because as business owners, there comes a time where we generally hire our first person or our next person. Let me tell you, it's different when you're bringing your husband into the business than it is hiring somebody. When I hire an expert, they pretty much know what they're doing, and I just say, here's how you do it in my systems. When I'm hiring my husband, there's a lot more baggage that comes along with it. So anyway, I have my husband working on the email marketing stuff because he likes to just bang away on the keyboard. He likes to just type away and do his thing. Um, and so we were having this conversation this morning about what our welcome email sequence looks like, and adding links to that those emails and what happens in the links. And I was like, we don't want to link in every single email because then people get overloaded. And my husband is famous for saying, well, I just got another email and I'm sure they just want to sell me something else. And I was like, oh, do you want our people to feel like that? Like, do you want our people to feel like that? Because I don't think that's a good way to feel. I don't want my people to feel like that. And so I was like, it's really important that we kind of space out the emails and make sure that we want to offer a lot of value without like overselling and pushing too much. So anyway, it was an interesting conversation. And again, for anybody who works with their husband or wife in their business, you know what a challenge it can be to um, the difference between your paid email marketing expert and your spouse is significantly different because you live with your spouse, and so you can't just fire them. I mean, you can, but you still have to deal with the consequences of that. Anyway, back to workflows, email workflows specifically. Um, so, uh, Minnesota. I haven't been. I'm in Maryland, so I'm not quite as far north as you, Dirt Boy. But yeah, Minnesota. So I miss the Great Lakes. I grew up in Western New York and on the shores of Lake Ontario, and I miss the Great Lakes. Now I have the Chesapeake Bay in Baltimore, and not far from the coast. So anyway, um, workflows, yes. So even before you start developing your workflows, though, in your platform. So again, I was just showing stuff on Go High Level, which is my CRM and my funnel builder, my website. All of my stuff happens in Go High Level or ClickUp. Um, and so in Go High Level, when we're talking about the email campaigns, which are not campaigns, I need to stop calling them campaigns because they're workflows now. They're moving everything over to workflows. Um, so we have the workflows that um, basically run the sequences through. So when somebody comes into your world, they just run through the sequence. And you can have multiple workflows happening at the same time. Um, and you can have people jump from one workflow to the next. So it's really, I don't know. That's pretty much it. That's where we're at. You could test them. I'll do some more in-depth content on how to actually build these workflows once I can figure out how to share my camera. Like I said, I think it's just blocked right now because I am new on the TikTok live studio. So, yeah. But I am going to call it a day here.